So we're now recording the session, and I'll bring up my own share screen, like I said. And it's the evening that we usually have on the Monday night is something we call Conversations and Miracles. I'm just going to try and bring it up now, and I'll give you just a little bit of information behind that, so we can get on with the scheduled show. Now, let me know when that comes up, or give me a wave. Can you see that?
Nothing.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's up now, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's our website. And just a little bit further down, we've got this for tonight and for Friday night. You know, we're going to go more in depth about the dictatorial powers template. So that's that. If anybody's familiar with the Thrive 2, you can access it.
Yeah, we watched them both.
Okay.
Wonderful.
But this is what we normally get up to on Monday night. We've only been running it for 3 weeks. However, we started study groups on this material more than about 20 years ago. And it's based on, well, you might be able to see that, the Conversations with God material. And we're blending 2 sets of information. The other one is the disappearance of the universe, and that's comes from A Course in Miracles, or it's derived from A Course in Miracles. So we've got some of the most phenomenal material of all time, I like to call it, that we've studied, you know, from 20 years ago, and we've had various other study groups from there. You know, this one appeared in 1995. It's been on the bestseller list for a long, long time. And recently there was a book number 4 that came out. But when we did the study on this one, this is called Awaken the Species, right? It's an important topic, okay? I won't go into it too much, but what I found was if people hadn't come across the book number 1 version first, they had a little bit of trouble with digesting book number 4. So just a little bit of information. Open your eyes and be the change you wish to see. And it's a course in cause, not effect. In other words, if we're only dealing with the effect and trying to fight this system from coming down on us, it's not enough. You need to get to the cause. And here is just some of the quotes that we have worked with. I'll just go straight to the last one. If you want guarantees in life, you don't want life. And it's full of that sort of information. Anyway, there's other stuff there. If you wanted to, you could connect to our YouTube channel, and there's a bunch of constitutional common law videos as well as spiritual videos. A lot of information there. There's also health information and other stuff which is related to tonight. So let's move on from there. What else did I want to share? Oh, there's a couple of people in the meeting room. All right, I'll just take care of a little bit of housekeeping. There's admit, and there's also somebody texting me, probably wants to get in.
Hi, Greta. Hello, Greta.
Hello.
Hi there.
I think I missed it.
Hi, Elspeth.
Oh, hello. Sorry I'm late. I just couldn't get off the phone, and anyway, I was probably late anyway, because I'm half an
Never
hour.
mind.
Yeah, sorry. About
No problem.
Someone called Jolly's got their thing muted and they're not hear anything.
Now, who was it that sent me this one here? Yeah, this might come up a bit later or something, from Robert Gottlieb's and it's talking about the astonishing attack on democracy, but we'll focus on Zachary's stuff. And if we want to, we can switch over to this as well. What else did I have? Not much more. Yeah, I believe there's going to be a meditation as well, and the focus for tonight. Oh yes, if I go back to the website, oh yeah, tonight is our conversation of miracles, but this week featuring the week of the Archangels, which Zachary told me about. The esoteric tradition on which all religions and spiritual paths are based. And of course, the omnibus template will also be reviewed for the Friday, what we call the Lawful Spirit Forum. So we've been running those for a couple of years, but the last few months on Zoom, of course. Yeah. Well, that's about all I need to share for now. And I'm going to invite, well, Zachary to come on in a moment. But first of all, we need to mute everyone except for Zachary. And if you want to say something, you can always unmute. If you're interested in getting our newsletter, by the way, send me your email in the chat screen. You can do it privately if you wish. Now, where are we? Where are you, Zachary? We're going to unmute Zachary. Oh, you've got to unmute yourself there, Zachary. And I can bring up the PowerPoint now if you wish.
That's great. Go for it, George.
Okay, so here we go. Just let me find where it is and we'll get started. Back here, got to click the right button. Wait a minute. Sorry, it won't be long. Okay, wave if you can see it. Okay. Over to you, Zachary, and enjoy.
Hello, friends. We're going to talk for the next 10, 12, 15 minutes about a very important time of the year, each year, and that is the days of the Archangels, or the Archangels Week. And as you can see from the slide in front of us, that starts on the 23rd of September. Those of you who are interested in astronomy or astrology may know that the 23rd is the spring equinox down here, down under. In the northern hemisphere, it's the beginning of autumn, so it's the autumn equinox, but here it's the spring equinox. So it has a very important, the 23rd is a very important date, both esoterically and astronomically and astrologically. It's the beginning of the sign of Libra, and it's the date on which the length of the days and nights are exactly equal. The Archangels, the days of the Archangels proceeds for 7 days, from the 23rd to the 29th, ending tomorrow at the St. Michael's Festival, or Michael Mass it's sometimes called. All this comes from the tradition of esoteric Christianity, and these are hidden or secret teachings that are not usually found in the New Testament or of the Bible, but have been passed down for a long time, centuries, possibly millenniums, in small esoteric groups which are devoted to those studies. Can we have the next slide, George?
Yeah.
Okay, this is from a Wikipedia entry, and I'll just read it. For Michaelmas is the Christian term for the Archangel Michael festival. It's also known as the Feast of Saints. Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, the Feast of the Archangels, or the Feast of Saint Michael and all angels. The Christian festival observed in some Western liturgical calendars on the 29th of September, which of course is tomorrow. In some denominations, a reference to a fourth angel, usually Uriel, is also added. In Christian angelology, interesting word, angelology, the Archangel Michael is the greatest of all the angels and is honored for defeating Lucifer in the war in heaven. Okay, next slide, George, please.
Oh. Sorry.
It's okay.
You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, next one, please.
Yeah.
In the modern esoteric or metaphysical tradition, which is based upon the teachings of Theosophy, and that's H.P. Blavatsky, Annie Besant, Judge, Leadbeater, and more recently Alice Bailey. Too much ground to cover there, so I'll just mention those names. And Maitreya Theosophy in particular, there are 7 major archangels. We believe some of us in this meeting are what we'd call Maitreya Theosophists. Can't talk about that. It deserves a lecture in its own right, but it's a New Age Theosophy. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, each of the 7 archangels is associated with a particular day during Angels Week in late September. Each archangel also manifests one of 7 rays, which are cosmic or divine streams of energy, and that's explained by Alice Bailey in some of the books she has channeled. And a lot of information there requiring months, years, lifetimes of study, as some of us have understood or tried. Okay, next slide, George. All right, we start the list as follows. 23 September, and don't forget that is the equinox here, the spring equinox, the day and the night being equal. It's also the beginning of the sign Libra. 23 September of each year is the day of Archangel Zadkiel. And there is an artist rendering of what Zadkiel might look like on the inner. Certainly the colors are correct. And can we go to the next slide? Zadkiel embodies or manifests the energy of the 7th ray, and that regenerates, transforms, and renews. 7th ray relates to finance and business, also ceremonial magic, and that is white magic, not gray magic, not black magic, obviously, in the esoteric sense. A person's influenced by Zadkiel and Ray 7, you would find therapists, healers, alchemists, magicians, anyone working with transformative or energies or the energies of renewal. And if you get a little further down, a more concretized or material expression of Ray 7 are businessmen and financiers. Okay, George, next slide, please. '24 September is the day of Archangel Uriel. Once again, an artist rendering of how Uriel may look or appear on the inner. And the next slide, please. Uriel embodies or manifests the energy of the sixth ray. Ray 6 governs or manifests as devotion, as idealism, as aspiration to an ideal, or self-sacrifice. Now, in the esoteric tradition, Christianity is a religion founded on sixth ray principles, also Islam. Therefore, if you want to know about a pure or highest form of sixth ray idealism, study the history of Christianity, and especially look at the life of saints such as Hildegard of Bingen. I think she was in the 11th or 12th century in Germany, what is now Germany. Or look at the life of Mary MacKillop here in Australia, or Padre Pio of Italy, and many others as well. But there's a lower side or negative side of Ray 6. That's monks and nuns who didn't make the grade and created suffering for themselves and others. So it's a very mixed story here, a very mixed story. There have been some quite outstanding individuals who have manifested the highest energy of the sixth ray, but there have also been people who have tried and failed. So a long topic, very big topic of discussion. Too long for now. Okay, George, next slide, please. The 25th of September is the day of Archangel Raphael. And I think that's a lovely image and maybe somewhat accurate in depicting the energy of this great archangel. Next slide, George, please. Raphael is connected to the fifth ray, and that's a ray that is very prominent at this point in time. The fifth ray represents concrete knowledge, science, collection of data, and all mind-based pursuits. Raphael, in the esoteric sense, is a powerful angel of healing and can, and I would say even should be, invoked by healers and therapists of all sorts. Very powerful healing energies transmitted through Archangel Raphael. Okay, George, next slide, please. 26th September is the day of Archangel Gabriel, famous in the Christian tradition, as we know. Next slide, please, George. Gabriel manifests or embodies the fourth ray of harmony through conflict. In its lower level, ray 4 manifests as conflict and rebellion. And guess what, folks? Ray 4 is very, very strong and very active in humanity in today's world. You don't have to guess on that account. Just turn on the evening news on any given day, and you'll see the fourth ray playing out all over the world in front of your eyes. On a higher level, resolution of conflict and thus manifestation of art and creativity is what we find in ray 4, fourth ray. And that's probably the esoteric reason why some artists seem to live relatively tortured lives. The name of Vincent van Gogh appears, to my mind, as a brilliant example of all that. Brilliant painter, absolutely brilliant, but a rather tortured soul, you could say. Okay, in the tradition, Christian tradition, Gabriel is famous as a messenger of God who informed Mary that she was to give birth to the Messiah. Next slide, George. (27th September, that was just yesterday, is the day of Archangel Chamuel. Interesting depiction of the archangel with energies coming out from the hands, the palms. And I like the image because the image is sort of bisexual. It's not really either male or female, sort of a combination of both. At that high level of existence, you'll find that these archangels are generally, you could say sexless, but that's not quite true. They actually embody the highest aspects of both the masculine manifestation, strength, power, leadership, determination, and also the feminine aspects of compassion and response to the needs of others. Okay, next slide, George, please.
So, androgynous.
Androgynous, that's a good word.
Yeah.
It is. Chamuel embodies or manifests the energy of the third ray of active intelligence. Ray 3 is considered a ray of aspect, which has a major influence on humanity and human activity on Earth. Now, whether that's for good or otherwise is debatable. Ray 3 is a divine stream of energy known as the Holy Spirit in the Christian tradition, or mother energy in the esoteric. And if you go into Christianity, or if you go into esoteric studies, mother energy, nurturing energy, or the Holy Spirit, very, very prominent in those traditions, very well known, prominent, and powerful. Now, astrologers such as myself, such as Chandra, come under this ray in its higher vibrations, and also architects. But actually, anyone who is engaged in intelligent activity, in whatever field of endeavor they are working, is also responding to ray 3. So ray 3 is a very easily accessible ray, cosmic stream of divine energy, which most humans respond to in one way or the other, without, of course, knowing it as such. Next slide, George. Today's Archangel host, as we are on the 20th of September, is Archangel Jophiel. And next slide, please. Jophiel manifests the energy of the second ray of love wisdom. This can manifest as love in its purest, highest, impersonal sense. That is to say, divine or godly love. It's a very high vibration of energy, and sadly, it seems to be in rather short supply on Earth at the moment. That's why those of us on the spiritual path have to try the best we can to manifest this second ray energy of love, impersonal love, as best we can. Not always easy, of course, to do it, but we have to try the best we can. Second ray also manifests as the spiritual wisdom of all ages. And so ray 2 is a motivating divine energy behind all the major world religions. Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and so on. If you filled a room with all the sacred scriptures of all the major religions, you could say that that would be a collection or summation of second ray wisdom teachings from past centuries and past millenniums. So it's a very important ray, a very important divine stream of energy. You could say that any spiritual or esoteric teaching that aspires to divine love and also teaches ageless wisdom comes under the influence of the second ray. Next slide, please. Okay, the final day in the week of the Archangels is tomorrow, 29 September. And that's dedicated to Archangel Michael. Next slide, please. Michael is known by many names in many religions, many traditions. He is the prince of all archangels. He is the vanquisher of evil. He is the leader of the heavenly hosts. You can call him the general of God, and most importantly, the guardian of the Christ. And that's a very esoteric office which he holds. Not really much time to discuss that, at least not at this point in time. We can maybe talk about it after the attunement or meditation. And other titles as well. Michael embodies the energy of the first ray of will, power, or leadership. And that's a very potent energy. Very potent indeed. Next slide, please. Those who respond to the energy of Michael and the first ray are political leaders of all shades. Whether they are dictators or Democrats, depends on whether they can respond to the higher vibrations of ray 1. If they can only manifest the lower, those leaders can be quite oppressive or dictatorial, as we know. Many examples, both now and in recent decades, that will attest to that. Now, soldiers and policemen also respond to Michael and Ray 1. Once again, whether the response is high or medium or low depends upon their own spiritual development and their ability to sense the higher energies of the first ray. And that's not an easy task. It's such a powerful energy, and we'll do a meditation on Michael and the first ray a little bit later in this session after we have finished a general discussion. And I'll try to convey some of that power to you. Next slide, please, George. So this is background knowledge. For some of you, it's quite familiar. For others of you, it may be new, but it's important background information. Now we can proceed to a meditation or attunement, and we will be tuning into the energy of Archangel Jophiel and the second ray. Today's the 28th, dedicated to those energies. We're going to do a creative visualization, and I'll guide this for about 5 to 7 minutes, so it's not that long. Some of you on this meeting have done this many times. For others, it may be a new experience, but no problem. I'll guide you the best I can, and we'll do this visualization or meditation. Now, please note, this is not an attempt to convert anyone to Theosophy or the esoteric tradition. I am not in the business of conversion. Thank you very much. Conversion has to be an inner process which comes from your own heart, your own mind, and your own higher self or your soul. So I'm definitely not out to convert anyone. The following is an exercise to help you respond to these divine energies in your own being. Energies which can be so nourishing and so helpful and so uplifting to those on the spiritual path. And those of us in this meeting who have done whatever sort of spiritual training, and I'm sure that's most of us, if not all of us, will certainly have your own stories to tell in that regard. Next slide, please, George. Okay, we're going to visualize this lovely image. It's from a painting by a Danish artist known as Peter Christensen. Peter Christensen lived in Australia for about 10 or 15 years. I think it was back in the 1980s and 1990s. He is now based back in Denmark, and you can look on the internet to see many of his paintings. He is a fabulous esoteric painter. I had the good fortune of meeting him in the late 90s when he was still in Australia, and I bought a few of his paintings. They're so revealing, so nice. Now, what I'm going to do is see if I can get some music as a background to the attunement, and then we'll proceed. So just bear with me.
We'll see how well it sounds on Zoom, won't we?
Yeah, that's a bit of an issue. I really don't know, but we'll give it a go.
Okay.
Are you getting some, you hearing this?
It never sounds terribly good on Zoom. In the yoga classes, it's better to turn it off, but up to you.
Are you getting some sort of sound?
Yeah, we are. It's not terribly pure.
Okay, well, we'll do the best we can, because music in our system is a very important adjunct or background. So we'll go ahead and proceed into the meditation,
Yeah.
starting at this track. Now, friends, if you would relax your mind, relax your body.
Just lower the volume a bit, Zachary.
Lower? Okay.
Yeah.
If you would relax your mind, relax your body. Let all the cares and concerns of today fall away. Try to suspend from all plans, all thoughts, memories of the past. Focus your attention in the present moment. You might want to take 1 or 2 deep breaths and just concentrate on the breath as it enters your lungs and as it exits. Your mind is detached, and yet it is alert. And now, friends, let us visualize that we enter the inner worlds, the subtle planes of existence, which those who meditate, those who contemplate, those who do spiritual work on the inner are familiar with. And we visualize that we are in the presence, the holy presence of Archangel Jophiel. The figure is androgynous, very tall, 100, 150, 200 meters high. It floats above us in the air. Jophiel is dressed in garments of gold and orange, and from the aura there emanate flashes of pink energy. On the inner, in our inner consciousness, we put our hands together in front of us and bow our heads as a mark of respect for being allowed to be in the presence of such divine, holy energy. Archangel Jophiel sees our respect, and from the face we see a lovely smile, full of compassion, full of warmth, full of love for each of us as spiritual beings in physical embodiment, each of us with our own particular karmic package, the dharma that we have to work out in this present incarnation. And now we receive a blessing from Archangel Jophiel. From the heart of this great being, there appears a sphere of light, golden light, with flashes of orange, flashes of pink. And that golden orb, that golden sphere, with its orange and pink flashes, emanates from the heart of Jophiel, and it travels downward toward each of us, and that sphere of light stops or becomes stationary about half a meter to a meter above our head, physical form. And now, friends, I ask you to open your heart and your mind to the wonderful second ray energy, the ray of love wisdom, which emanates from this sphere, which has come from the heart of Archangel Jophiel. And this sphere hovering above our heads, golden in color, orange and pink flashes, comforts us, renews us. It gives us wisdom to face the challenges which we all have in our daily lives. Most importantly, it transmits to us the energies of divine, impersonal, cosmic love. And now, friends, our audience, in the holy presence of Archangel Jophiel, comes to an end. Once again on the inner, we press our palms together in front of our chests and bow deeply to this holy source of divine energy. And Archangel Jophiel raises his right hand and blesses us for the final time in this meditation session. We see Jophiel recede into the distance. And now, friends, it's time for us to return to our normal, daily, waking consciousness as this meditation has now come to an end. So, friends, we gently return to our outer awareness. And this section of the Zoom meeting is now complete. And so I open the floor to discussion from anyone who wishes to comment, ask a question, or whatever. Please feel free to speak up or comment or question, whatever motivates you. Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary. Beautiful.
You're welcome, Chandra.
If anyone's interested, there's probably few teachings about the archangels on my website, starastrologyhealing.com. go into the search function and type in Archangel. There's a couple of articles there on the role of the Archangels in this current time that we're living through, the Great Change.
Yes, we are living in a time of great upheaval, as we all know. Certainly a lot going on, a lot going down. We're trying to form a new world, a new consciousness. Not easy, of course, but it has to be done because the old world is passing into history. And good riddance to a lot of concepts, patterns of life, and so on in that old system, that old paradigm. It's passing away very quickly, too.
Thank you.
Have you got it? Sorry,
No, that's it.
you go.
Yeah, in the studio we have here, Zachary. I'm never alone because I've got quite a few angels with me.
Good on you, George.
Yeah.
Yay, George.
And I'm not sure if it's relevant, but I've actually got 10.
Ah.
And it didn't include Zadkiel, but it included all the others that you mentioned. But one of the things I found interesting was, as you mentioned, these archangels seem to span all the religions, the Buddhism, the Hindu, the Christian, Judaism, and Islam. How extensive is that? And why would you think that would be?
It's because they exist as great holy entities on the inner planes. And therefore spiritual seekers, and I guess speakers as well, of all the major religions who have done intensive practice have come upon these energies in their meditations and their inner work. And they've recognized them as the great sources of divine energy that they truly are. And that's why you'll find them in all the major religions of the world and in pretty well all the esoteric teachings of the world as well, as far as I'm aware.
You could also say that even though Zachary's only spoken about 7 rays, in our tradition we know that there are 7 visible rays and 3 invisible ones. So maybe if you follow that thread, we might say that some of the archangels are a bit invisible to us, but will be revealed as we awaken. And of course there are the lady archangels too.
Yep, there are. Each of the major archangels has a female counterpart. Didn't mention that. It's a lot to cover, but yeah, and they have various names and various functions and so on. Yep, a lot to take in. A lot to take in here in this week of the archangels.
Yes, I would say that there are qualities associated with each archangel. Those qualities, the how do you call that, the passive polarity in the archangelic form.
The yin and the yang.
The yang, it's a polarity because there are no physical, no physical beings. They are energy beings. So there is still a polarity. Energy is matter. If we talk about energy, it is matter. So there is polarity, and I call them polarity. Those lady archangels, polarities or qualities.
Yeah, well said.
What can you briefly just outline some of the roles that they're playing during this upheaval period?
Well, they exist on sort of the individual archangels have different functions. And if you can attune to their energy, they can help you. For instance, you might remember that back in the 1990s, the French were setting off nuclear explosions in the Pacific, under the Pacific atolls of the islands which they owned. And of course, that was wreaking terrible havoc to the sea life, and of course the you could say the very physical structure of the atolls themselves. According to the information I received, it was Archangel Uriel in particular that was involved in healing those underwater test sites which the French had used to explode their nukes.
And
I mentioned also that, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Zachary and I have done a little bit of meditation work to try and neutralise some of the radiation effects from the wireless world. And when we've done that a year or two ago, who should appear but the energy of Archangel Uriel. So there's obviously a very strong protective energy of the earth and, as you say, of the oceans connected to Uriel. Yeah.
And if you're into healing, if you are in any sort of healing therapies, Archangel Raphael is your source of inspiration. If you're a leader of any sort and you have a problem or a question, then ask on the inner, ask Archangel Michael. You will get some sort of answer. So these archangelic beings are there. They do exist, not on the physical, but on the inner plane of consciousness. And for those who need help, all they really have to do is ask.
And also, I'd say,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that in the middle of the chaos that we have in 2020 and going forward, as Zachary mentioned, the fourth ray, and therefore Lady Archangel Hope and Archangel Gabriel help us to find balance in the middle of the insanity that's going on. And that's our task for people who are aspiring to live a spiritual life, is to hold a balanced, harmonious position and to remain ever hopeful and to maintain peace. And so for that purpose, we call upon Lady Archangel Hope and Archangel Gabriel to help us find this balance in the middle of the absolute chaos that's all around us.
It's a very good point.
And when you say they're in the inner layers of consciousness or something, does that mean they're sort of inside of us, inside of our consciousness?
They're not necessarily inside of you, but they exist on the subtle planes of awareness, which you can access through meditation. And you can do that through visualization. Get an image of Archangel Gabriel, if that's what you're drawn to, and internalize it. Pretend or visualize that you're interacting with that archangelic energy. And eventually, maybe not right at the moment, but eventually you'll get some sort of answer, or intuition, or a feeling, or you'll find a book, or you'll meet someone who gives you some knowledge or information which you were searching. It does work like that. As the Lord Jesus said, those who seek shall find. Those who knock on the door shall be answered. That's very much how it works in the spiritual world.
May I,
And maybe it's...
may I add something? That's also our being. We are made of angelic substance, because the angels are called the builders. So I think at some level or another, at an etheric level, we have those energy in us. Like when we said, have faith in yourself, well, for me, it's literal. When I say I have faith in yourself, I see literally the archangelic form of faith in myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
I do embrace the inner as well as the outer. If there is God out there, there is God within, and everything, all the formation, all the builders, everyone is within. But tapping into it is difficult because we haven't been trained to do that. But I think we learn eventually in the future to recognize all these aspects we see outside within as well. That's how I perceive the process. If it can help.
You could probably also say that, broadly speaking, the archangels who work for the planet have maybe it's millions of angels who work for them, and it's those lesser angels who connect with us on an individual level. So if we pray for the earth, the archangels work for the earth. But if I pray for help with a personal or a family situation, I'll get one of the lesser archangels who works for whichever archangel I've called upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Mm. Mm.
And here I think we should talk about the esoteric principle of overshadowing. Overshadowing means that if you are pure enough in your consciousness, it takes some practice, not easy to do, but if you're pure enough, you can attract either some of the lesser angels, which Chandra mentions, or maybe if you're more advanced, some of the archangels themselves, or any number of divine entities that can actually, in a sense, hover over you and send their energy into your inner bodies. You might not necessarily see it, because clairvoyance is a rare psychic gift among most humans, but eventually you can feel it. The purification, the holiness, the downpouring of a divine entity that is overshadowing you. And this happens a lot more than is commonly understood. Happens quite a bit, actually, for people who are sincere in their life. They don't necessarily even have to be spiritual, but they're searching, trying to do the right thing under difficult circumstances. They can attract these angelic energies, and if they're spiritually advanced, these archangelic energies. Not easy, but it does happen.
One of the ways I operate, the angels I see as an element of grace. We almost daily I work with elements of love, unconditional love, compassion, which is born of empathy and understanding, trust that the light can see all and the dark cannot, and so the light always wins. The faith part of it is knowing that I am a master co-creating with the divine, and you all are, by the way. And then grace comes along, and the grace is once you set an intention, that's when the angels can help you. And it's not just the angels, it can be your guides, and it can even be the divine itself. And the final element is gratitude. It doesn't matter what's happening in your life. Nothing's a coincidence, and whether you see something coming in as good or bad, it's there for a reason, and so you can be grateful for it in either case. That's just something I wanted to share. That's the way I operate.
That's beautiful.
Very good, George. Very good philosophy.
So you have to set an intention before they can help you.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You see, we have.
Otherwise, otherwise they interfere with your free will. If your free will is to do nothing, then that's the help.
You might sit there and say, "Oh, look, could you please help me?" But you actually have to, before you do that, you've got to really make a bit of an effort and set an intention.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to initiate.
Yeah.
It's an invocation. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Am I on? Oh,
Yeah.
no.
You're on? Yes.
I am. Okay. I wonder if anyone or some of you are familiar with this particular text.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Yeah.
I think so.
Medical medium is supposed to be decades ahead of medical science, and the author was given this special ability ever since he was very, very young, 2 or 3 years old, and he gets information about anyone's ailments, and he said it wrecked his childhood. Because he didn't want this voice talking in his ear, telling him about everybody's ailments. And even today, when he steps on a plane, he says he gets messages about everybody on the plane, But he's learned to deal with it, and he's accepted the gift, which is extremely rare. Once every 10,000 years, he mentioned. And now. I don't think he's doing private sessions anymore because he's published a series of books on these subjects, and that's the first book. We've got a number of them for sale here, and I've got a few other of his other titles. And he's got lots of information on angels in here. And there's quite a variety of angels, which he talks about, like the angel of mercy, the angel of faith, and then there's trust and healing, restitution, deliverance, sun, light, water, air, purity, fertility, birth, peace, beauty, purpose, knowledge, wisdom, awareness, relationships, and dreams. You can call on any one of these angels, and it does have some special meditations that work with the angels as well. When you go into the back of the book, sort of thing. I just thought I'd throw that in because it seems to be relevant to the subject.
Yeah.
Indeed, it is.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book because one of the things it says, and this was very significant for me, is that there is no such thing as an autoimmune disease. Right?
That's right.
There's always a causal factor. The body never attacks itself.
Never does.
Yeah, we are designed. We have a divine design, and so why should it ever break down? Only because we ingest the wrong food and we have a little bit too much stress in our lives. And so if you're able to deal with those elements, then you never get sick. And if we go a little bit further with that, and it's part of the conversations material, you don't even have to grow old, and your body is actually designed to live forever. Well, there you go. I mean, that's some pretty heavy duty stuff there from the spirit world.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I just read that bit about how our body's designed to live forever, and I must say I've been thinking about that and thinking, gosh, gee, that would be a real feat if you lived forever. Because I know I've got a relative who's about 105, but you know.
A long way from living forever, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
In the tradition of theosophy, in the tradition of theosophical teachings that were brought to the world by Madame H.P. Blavatsky in the late 19th century and Annie Besant-Halifax and so on, the teaching is that once you attain a very high state of initiation, we call it the fifth initiation, and I would take hours to describe that. Once you obtain the fifth initiation in your physical, you have the option to live forever in a perfectly disease-free body if you wish. That is the theosophical teaching, the esoteric teaching. Now, that's not going to happen to any of us in this present incarnation, but it is something we can perhaps aspire to in the future.
Yes.
I think one thing I'd like to say about angels is that as we are moving into the 21st century and humanity are evolving, and so we are approaching and gradually getting closer to and eventually merging with the angel kingdom. So at the moment we think of angels over there in their world and humans in their world. But in 2,000 years' time, we would be saying, well, we're human angels. Yeah? This is the long range plan for the evolution of humanity, is to bring our angel and our human selves into greater unity. And some people are, heading in that direction, and some will be doing it in a few centuries' time. But that's where we're all going.
And then how is that then, what's the next step after that? How's that then connected to God, or, I mean, is that a stupid question?
I think if you ask me in a couple of thousand years' time, and I'll be able to tell you. I don't have any possible comprehension or way of having anything sensible to say about that. But I take comfort in the fact that as I learn to live more in love, then I connect to the invisible realms, that my body needs different food, different air, and that I have a heightened awareness of the different senses. So instead of having just the 5 ordinary senses, humanity broadly will end up having higher senses, higher intuition, greater compassion, the clairvoyance. But it's going to take us basically the age of Aquarius to get there, the next 2,165 years. So this is a work in progress, but generally speaking, that's where we're heading if we decide to stay on Earth. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it is a decision, and there is information talking about evolution where, and we've had presentations here on exactly that. Evolving to a higher dimensional vibration, and the way I've heard it termed is we have the potential to evolve from Homo sapien sapien, where we are now,
Yes.
to Homo spiritus or Homo luminous, where we will be less physical, but with many enhanced abilities. But like you say, it is a choice, and we can also create heaven on earth on this planet in the existing 3rd dimension that we're still in as well. Now, yeah, there's quite a bit of variable information on that topic, and I'm no expert on it. It's some of the stuff they talk about is quite bizarre. One of the most interesting, though, is the remnants of the Lemurian age, right? They knew that their civilization was going to be destroyed, according to information I've come across. And so the highest among them, who were already on the path of ascension as a collective, they decided to exit the realm of the Lemurian lands, and they evolved to a point where they're not quite material anymore, and they still exist here on Earth. And when I say on Earth, I mean in Earth, right? One of the main places they're inhabiting is under Mount Shasta, of all places. But there's lots of inner Earth information as well. And I can't verify it for you, but you could look up that sort of information. The telos information is very powerful. It's some of the most powerful information I've ever come across on how a society can operate in a highly evolved way. Yeah. So there is very fascinating information out there. They say they can't reveal themselves to us at this stage, but because we're still too violent. How about that?
How about that?
True. We live in the midst of the great mystery.
Yeah. Yeah, but the Telos books are just absolutely amazing. They also go into something which is a little bit of a shock to a lot of people, and that is how we live on a hollow earth. Now, why would that be? Why would they? I don't go along with the flat earth theory. There's no bloody way it can be flat. But anyway, the reason why they call it, they say it's hollow, is it's shaped like an apple, and so it comes in on itself, and it's spinning around. Right? So it's like a toroidal structure.
Of course.
Yeah. And when you think about it, what would be the gravity in the center of the Earth? Somebody answer that.
Zero.
Zero. And
Yes.
so why would there be a mass in the center of the Earth? Anyway, it applies to all the heavenly bodies, all the stars, all the planets. They're saying they're all toroidal. And when I looked into that pretty deeply, it made a lot of sense. And on Earth, or in Earth, we have civilizations. I've shown plenty of information on that at our centre and our cinema and all that sort of thing. The inner Earth beings. Can't say I've met one, so I can't vouch for it, but the information itself is very powerful. Anyway.
I mean, it makes me, when you say that, George, it makes me think of the esoteric axiom, as above, so below. And just as my soul is overshadowing so that eventually it will become within me, then certainly the seven spirits before the throne, the holy ones, embody and enter and interpenetrate within the physical planets. And then as the vibration and frequency of the planets is raised, then of course we have more space, or we might call it more heart or more love within the core or the centre of those planets. So it makes sense to me from that perspective of as above, so below.
Yeah, well, part of the journey of exploration about all this sort of information is kind of telling us that the Lemurian race, which still exists on this planet, is one of our protectors. Yeah, because they've evolved to that level where they can do those sort of things, and there's actually plenty of human type races scattered all over the galaxy. We're talking about tens of thousands or maybe more, and although some of them are not so friendly, there's malevolent species and there's benevolent species. And the malevolent species, they've evolved, some of them have evolved to a very high technological rate or being, and they are capable of coming down to Earth and invading us. Right? They can skip across time and space and invade us. But that doesn't happen because there are higher dimensional beings that exist that have transcended the physical, and they stop them. And so we're actually safe from alien invasion. Don't believe any of those Hollywood stories, right, that we're about to be invaded. We're actually safe from them, but there is one race we're not safe from.
That's us.
Homo sapiens.
Yeah, Homo sapiens.
Yeah. We've got the free will, right?
And you could, yeah,
to choose.
Sorry.
Yeah, we've got the free will to choose where we evolve to, and if we choose to annihilate ourselves, well, it's nothing unusual. That's where the more advanced information comes in that we've studied before. It goes into instead of extraterrestrials, you need to look at it as extra dimensionals. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge subject.
If I could just add that on the planet at the moment, we've been a race that's been evolving and doing all sorts of weird, wonderful stuff for millions of years. But the way I conceive of it, there were two major races that occurred before our present, what's called Yosfi, the fifth root race. And that was the Lemurian race, which is the third root race, and then the Atlantean, which is the fourth root race. And each of those civilizations, the Lemurian, which is the more ancient, and then the Atlantean, which was also pretty old, but after the Lemurian, they existed on Earth for millions of years. The Lemurians were basically heart-centered. The Atlanteans were basically head-centered.
Mind-centered.
The remnants of Lemuria, according to the esoteric teachings I've studied, are Pacific islands such as Solomon Islands, New Guinea, Cook Islands, and that whole chain out there. That was where Lemuria actually existed before it sank.
Australia.
Yeah, well, Australia, yes, of course. And the Atlantean was basically based in the Atlantic Ocean and had elements that had parts, it covered parts of what is contemporary Europe, present-day Europe, and also parts of North America. So the question for us as the fifth root race is, are we able to tune into the highest aspects of both the Lemurian root race and the Atlantean root race? That is to say, the race of the heart, the Lemurians, and the race of the head, the Atlanteans, and somehow build a bridge or connection between those two races. I think that's very important for us to try to do if we understand the esoteric history of this planet, which has been hidden and covered up by certain powers that be because they don't want us to know. But the information is coming out, especially now in the age of Aquarius. It's really coming out in all directions.
And that's what I was mentioning when I said that as we evolve over the next 2,000 years and the angel and the human kingdoms begin to merge, this is what is known as the sixth root race. And in the modern New Age tradition, this is the rainbow children. You know, all the souls who have those higher qualities of compassion and intuition and the higher senses developed. And let's hope it comes quicker than 2,000 years. And that's the forward planning of and I don't know what the name of the sixth root race is, but our teacher, the lady Ananda Tarashan, she's spoken to us about the sixth root races. She calls them the children of the heart, operating, as Zachary said, upon a higher frequency of love and higher frequency of mind. And this is where the human species is going. And unfortunately, there's not enough of humanity thus far that have chosen the heart, hence the upheaval that we're living through.
It's gone very quiet. Everyone's deep in contemplation, I think.
Yes, we are.
It's quite an interesting sort of period of time because, you know, what I'm hearing being spoken of is basically what is being brought to the surface at the moment. So really this meeting is a culmination of people really searching to release themselves from a kind of confinement that we existed in to a new style of confinement, which is lifting it more to the surface, and people are expressing their opinions in ways through the media, through the internet, etc., in a way that's a little bit more compassionate than what it can be demonstrated on the streets in the United States and occasionally in cities like Melbourne and Sydney. But certainly there's a change coming, and how it's coming, it can be in an aggressive way, which will not work, or in a very passionate and compassionate and peaceful way, which is having open discussions, not always agreeing with everything that's being said. You know, there's an aspect of evolvement and understanding of the circumstances to come to a conclusion that will take us to the next step. And it's got to be without ego. It's not with trimmings that are going to make us either number one or a part of number one. It is just basically to bring about the changes that are necessary to make life a lot more bearable for many more people and spiritually develop as well. We're seeing too many things that are indicating that, you know, science and religion are actually coming together at the moment. There are things that are being expressed in science and achieved in science, which have been spoken of spiritually for many, many millions of years. And we're evolving now. There's definitely a change. There are some that feel that the axis of the earth might change very soon. There might be a massive wave of positive energy that will make us all link together, not necessarily through the internet, but spiritually linked together, and have a way of knowing that it's a direction that is appropriate for all of us, including nature and animals within nature as well. You know, this is a fantastic sign.
I wanted to say also something. When I watched yesterday or the day before, the Thrive 2, I watched, and of course, they were talking about decentralization, and that's the idea behind that. But it's exactly what has happened to us spiritually as well, is that we've grown to become a very self-assertive being and self-centered being. Now we decentralize. We are not self-interested. We move out and decentralize. So what is happening at the moment, when you see everyone wanting to run away from the cities, is that they suddenly realize that, hey, what about the others? And they decentralize, they run away from the cities to start. But it's a lovely application of the decentralization, like less self-centeredness. It's quite beautiful, and you can see that a lot of people are doing that at the moment. So it's a sign that there is a movement, there is a move within the mind and the heart. The joining, a connection between the two.
Yeah.
And that's when I picked that in a movie, I said, yes, that's exactly that. Left self-centeredness.
You all know what
Brilliant.
Thrive the movie is. I assume most of you do. Is that correct?
Eh?
So you know the movie Thrive?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, there we go.
Voilà.
See, so Thrive 2 is the extension, and it crystallizes a lot of things that have been spoken of for many years, and I think probably for thousands of years. Like the image that you see there, that tower is in Texas, and it's the development of the Tesla view for free energy. So that people are getting electrical supply from this tower, which has no wires. Yeah, it just sends the energy through the air with, I assume, no pollution of the environment in terms of the EMRs. I know people, Chandra has problems with EMR. I don't think would give you those sort of problems. And it's free energy for everybody. Now, they've had the information since Tesla's been around, and they finally built one in Texas, and the people within that area are getting free energy. So,
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And it's just about harnessing a particular frequency, and we know ourselves, it's like with music, some frequencies are jarring to the ear and some are uplifting.
Yes.
The same as with the EMR. The EMR frequency is jarring to our cellular nature, but you choose a frequency that's uplifting, and voila.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to explore the Thrive 2 a bit more detail, go to our website, makebyhouse.com.au, and you can click on the poster there, which will take you to the all the resources page.
Yes.
Many years ago we screened Thrive #1.
Yes, we saw it. So yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Have you
Wonderful.
heard of, I'm not sure if my microphone was off when I was talking about the documentary series Time of the Sixth Sun. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah, I saw a bit of that.
Yeah, we played that last year, and the final episodes were pretty fascinating. The Time of the Sixth Sun is as we go through the galactic cycle of 25,000 years. We've come through that 25,000, now going into the age of Aquarius, and that's the sixth sun. It's something that the indigenous people almost worldwide talk about. How did they do all that? But there's a couple of channels that appear on the documentary series. There's Saint Germain, and there's also Tobias, and they both talk about the time, coming into a time where we're just half a breath away from free energy. That's what they were saying about this year.
Yeah. It's already happened.
It
The
is
towers there
happening
in Texas.
already.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
There was another session on power where this guy in Zimbabwe had created this battery that picked up radio waves in the air and generated this electrical system. So it was free energy again,
Yeah.
and it will go into the energy system in Zimbabwe, and it won't cost them anything. You've got to see it in the Thrive movement,
Number two,
number two, and
That's
to
brilliant.
see. But there were a few people that were put in jail because they
course.
developed it,
Yes.
and there was indications that there are countries and corporations in the world that don't want this to get out.
Mm.
Of course, they're going to suppress the
Yes.
information, and we'll end up in a set of circumstances where it'll be locked in a cupboard somewhere, you know?
Mhm.
Hopefully not.
No, it won't happen.
Yeah.
It's too late. It's already out.
Another thing I thought I'd say, just talking about this kind of the sixth sun and talking about the Aquarian age, as an astrologer, I follow the eclipses, and we've had some fairly momentous eclipses in the last 6 months or so, but the next one coming, and it's on the 14th of December, and I'm not sure whether it's a total eclipse, I think it is, it's on the galactic centre. Now, I don't know what that means, but I wonder whether it's to do with manifestation of some of the prophecies that whether it's the Indigenous Australians or whether it's the Hopi, the Indigenous people of the earth know something about these evolutions between ages. And I think that'll be a very interesting eclipse to watch on the 14th of December, because the galactic centre is the 26th degree of Sagittarius, and the eclipse falls 3 degrees away from it. So it's almost like, I guess an image I have from that is like an eye from the universe looking at Earth, and we can look at the universe, and what might happen, who only knows, but it's something to do with the time's up. Yeah, and I haven't looked at the eclipse chart to see what it might mean astrologically, but I think, we are being looked at from the very centre of the galaxy. Yeah, the solar logos we speak of in the theosophical tradition. Anyway, just a food for thought.
I've seen they're organising a gathering on the 21st of December
Yes.
2020 at Uluru.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Anybody want to go?
Well, we can certainly do it on the inner.
We'll have to
It's also
over the border, though.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing to remember is that Uluru, according to most traditions, is considered to be the planetary solar plexus. And I know as a healer that the solar plexus is about our emotions, and we've seen humanity with their emotions a bit out of control in 2020. And so I guess it's an opportunity wherever we are on the 21st of December to work to lift fear up into the heart, to bring the heart and compassion as the overriding focus rather than the emotions. And if we can do that with a focus upon Uluru, then in theory, this should help in the lifting of the consciousness of the planetary heart. And maybe this is what we have to do while the galactic eye is looking at us.
Yes.
Well,
I'm just looking on the internet now, and the focal point of that eclipse seems to be about 2/3 of the way down South America, somewhere over eastern Chile or Argentina. Yeah, that's where it seems to be.
So would you say Titicaca, Zach?
Well, I'm just looking at a map of South America overall. I haven't seen the precise path, but I'll look here now. Oh yeah, here we go. No, it's a little south of Titicaca. It's sort of in Argentina. And yeah, sort of around central Argentina, central Chile, which is south of Titicaca, because Titicaca is on the Peru-Bolivia border.
But there's a sphere
Not
of
far,
influence.
not that far. Yeah, it's not that
Just
far
to
from
put
Titicaca
it
either.
in context, the eclipses affect the whole planet. They are localised and the energy spreads out from there. So the one on Boxing Day last year, the energy is spreading out from Indonesia. Yeah, and so that's a place to watch in terms of upheaval and volcanic activity. The one from the winter solstice, the energy is spreading out from Gangotri in northeastern India. And the next one coming, as Zachary's just said, is South America. And I immediately think of the very, very sacred site of Lake Titicaca, which is site for of heart and of compassion, a second ray holy place. Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, it looks to be like the path of the greatest eclipse looks to be about, I guess, maybe 500, 600, 700 kilometers south of Titicaca, which is
yeah, well, it
on the
would be
Peru-Bolivia border, especially.
Yeah, I'm sure it influences that. Yeah. Anyway, somewhere down the track we can do a talk about that. But yes, that is the eclipse on the galactic centre.
Well,
So what do you reckon, George? Gonna let Chandra do a talk on the eclipse of 14 December?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you reckon letting Chandra have access to your fine facilities to give a talk on the 14 December 2020 eclipse would be a good idea?
Well, before it happens, hopefully.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we
can
do
do that.
we do encourage anyone that wants to share some of their wisdom with groups and invite people to come along. I think it's very important to keep that vibration going in this sort of means. You know, the more popular groups right now seem to be the how to beat the system. They're really popular, right?
Yeah,
and
understandably so.
Yeah, we do a little bit of that, but I think it's also important to look at the metaphysics. And one of the elements that I've quoted many times, again from Awaken the Species, is that an awakened species always uses metaphysics, and humans in an unawakened state don't. Like, you know, on occasion I'll use a divination to help me along with whatever's going on, and we found those tools very valuable. The other tools that we find of value is synchronicity. Right? You know, there's also dreams and coincidences you can't explain, but synchronicity for me is one of the ways that I get verifications on a direction, put it that way. You know, and other people get it different ways. You know, they get it, sometimes they get it direct, a voice, you know, or they get it in their gut, or it just appears in their head. Well, that doesn't work for me, but maybe it does, but maybe I just don't have it developed. Does anybody else want to share how they get that sort of metaphysical information, you know, spontaneously maybe?
Yeah, I get told, even on small, mundane, trivial matters, like I'm in, the local supermarket in Dalesford, Coles, you know, and I walk by a shelf and let's say I look at vinegar, white vinegar for cleaning, and I just get a feeling or intuition, you should grab it, you know, and if I don't do that, I always regret it a day or two or a week later. I should have grabbed that bottle of vinegar when I was in Coles, darn it. I didn't listen to my intuition. Yeah. So it can give you information on you know, vast metaphysical subjects, but I like it because it gives you practical information on a day-to-day basis. I love that.
Yeah, there's I think probably a lot of you are familiar with David Icke.
Yeah.
And, we played his life story. We screened that here. Was it this year or last year? I can't remember now. And he tells us about his story. In the early days, he wouldn't talk about metaphysics because everybody thought he was stupid. But now he's starting to reveal a lot of that. And in his biography on this movie, he revealed that he got started back in 1990. He said he had this irresistible urge to go into a bookshop in the UK somewhere, and the urge took him to a particular shelf in the bookshop, and it took him to a book called Mind to Mind by Betty Shine. So that's interesting. He looked her up, and she was a powerful psychic, and she was able to tell him that he would be one of the major forces in this world to bring about quite dramatic change, and that he will be protected, right? Because all the stuff that he's bringing out, they should have knocked him off ages ago, shouldn't they? And that hasn't happened. It's interesting that I feel like I've had a similar experience, and mine happened in about 1983, and I was, let's say, guided to material, and the book was Mind Over Matter. And so David Icke had Mind to Mind, and I had Mind Over Matter, and Mind Over Matter happens to be still just about the most powerful collection of material I've ever come across. The Conversations with God material that we study Monday nights, and the disappearance of the universe, how I came across the Conversations material was I was in the bookshop in Belgrave before it shut down, and that was in 1995 when the book was just published. At the same time, I was part of a yoga study group, and in the yoga study group, there were 2 questions that we couldn't answer when we were studying. And I saw the book on a shelf, it said Conversations with God, and I thought, oh, what's this rubbish, So I picked it up, and I opened it randomly, and guess what? It answered the first question. I thought, oh, been good coincidence, And so I opened it randomly again, and it answered the second question. And, and I said to myself, I've got to read these, And so I proceeded with books 1 and 2 and 3 from 1995 to 1997, and they blew my mind, literally, yeah. The 2017 book is also mind-blowing, and appeared as a total surprise to the author. He didn't expect to do any more channeling. He hadn't done any for 10 years. And he was awoken one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's when he traditionally was woken up. And so he knew he had to write. And one of the things he said was, well, why are you coming to us now? I thought you didn't have an agenda to push around. You just give us free will and watch us create what we create, And the God entity answered and said, well, actually, you're coming to me. There's enough of you on the planet which are saying, hey, we're in a bloody mess. We need help. Help! And so that was the answer. That was the incentive for that energy to come through once more. And we're told it's the last time. We better get this right, everyone.
Yes.
This is the pivotal point. Apparently, we're being watched from all places in the universe, they tell us.
Yes.
Let's not muck it up.
Yeah.
But we get help at the sorry.
Sorry, could you let Becky, Fred?
Hans wants to say something. Go on.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, go on.
Someone called Becky is trying to get in. Rebecca, have you?
Can't see her. Oh, hang on. Oh, yes, you're right. Okay, I'll let her in.
Sorry, apologies.
Very good.
And what wisdom were you going to share, Hans?
Yeah, Hans?
That was my wisdom.
Okay, I was going to say something about sometimes Zachary was talking about how his intuition works on the mundane as well as the extraordinary. But sometimes we get help when we're not even really switched on. I'll give you an example. I was on the highway driving through New South Wales late last week, late in the afternoon. I'd been driving all day and I was quite tired, and I was busy admiring the beauty of the nature, and the sun was setting and there was incredible colours and rainbow all over. And I was sort of in a bit of a blissy kind of a space, and I was doing about 110 kilometres ahead of me on the road. I was allowed to. It's 110 in the zone. I was sort of an hour or two north of the Victorian border. And somewhere ahead of me on the road, I noticed a whole lot of birds. But I was on a perfectly flat road. There was no one coming towards me, no one behind me. I didn't slow down. I just figured there was some carrion on the road, and I figured the birds would leave by the time I got there. And as I got closer, all the little birds left, but the big bird that was after whatever was on the road wasn't leaving. I think it was an eagle or something. Now, I had my hands on the wheel, both hands on the wheel, and I didn't move them. And out of the middle of the nowhere comes this incredible loud horn, and my car, of its own volition, via my angels, hit the horn because I was going too fast and was about to collect the eagle, and the bird hadn't left in time. So I had my two hands on the wheel. I didn't touch the brake. I got such a fright. I'm looking around thinking there's another car blasting a horn at me, but it was my very 20-year-old car that has no modern capacity to hit its own horn, and it blasted the horn and the eagle took off. I went, and I'm pondering, I thought, if that hadn't have happened, I would have cracked the windscreen. I would have been stranded in the middle of nowhere. I have no mobile phone. I would have been cactus. I was sort of daydreaming, and I should have slowed down because the bird was not leaving. So my angels hit the horn. I've never had that happen. I've had this car for 12 years. It was bizarre. So, I mean, I just use that as an example of sometimes we're protected. You know, it's the most extraordinary event.
The eagle certainly is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there is a story. Do you live in New South Wales, Chandra?
No, I'm in Dalesford, and I was coming home.
Oh, how did you get across the border?
Everybody asks me that. I did it completely legally. I left on the 4th of July. It took 2 days to drive to just south of the Queensland border, and then showed to the policeman proof that I'd been out of regional Victoria for 14 days. And he said, on your way. And so I headed north, and then I stayed up there until the week before the Angel Festival, and then I thought I have to go home. And of course, nobody's interested if you're silly enough to return to Victoria. They don't ask any questions. They're only asking questions when you're going north. All they say is, put a mask on it if you get out of the car. So nobody stopped me, on the way south.
Yeah, we had a little bit of assistance in March. This was after the lockdown started, right? And we've got some land up in northern New South Wales, and we were debating whether we should go. And, you know, because that's when we were scheduled to go. And Christine had a dream, and in the dream it said we wouldn't be impeded in any way. So we decided, let's go. You know, we jumped in the little motorhome and we took off, and we weren't bothered in any way whatsoever. Now, the other synchronicity that happened on that trip was the little motorhome that we've got had a damaged roof mount, a cover over the bathroom in the little motorhome. And I was wondering, when am I going to find a new cover, or how am I going to find a new cover, or how am I going to fix it? And as we were driving along, Christine accidentally dropped a spoon outside the window. And so I turned to her and I said, well, should we stop and pick it up? And we said, yeah, let's do that. You know, let's stop and pick it up. And we walked back maybe 200 or so meters, and we found the spoon. And just over the guardrail, I saw this piece of plastic. It was so big by so wide, and it had a dome shape. And guess what? It was the exact part required to fix the vehicle. Now that's over 1,300 kilometres. We were stopped precisely where we could fix the motorhome, right?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, we were amazed, you know.
Right.
That's right. Synchronicities.
Oh yeah, well that was years ago. Yeah, yeah, synchronicities happen all the time. And another one which Kristen told me about was we just bought this little motorhome, and there was a problem with it. We didn't realise that the auto electrics weren't properly tested, and even though we were travelling thousands of kilometres, we eventually broke down. And guess what? We broke down right in front of an auto electrician.
On Saturday afternoon
What is that?
in a little town, and it was still open.
And it was open.
And they took us in straight away.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. There's plenty of other stories, but that's a couple of them. They seem to happen all the time to us, and you got to be careful about being reckless, right? If you're not reckless and you stay within your heart space and you work with your intuition, then even if you're doing something reasonably tricky or dangerous, then you can come through. And what I can say about that is, Zachary's pretty active on the writing letters to people here and there and Parliament and all this, and we've been active in kind of related areas, but I do pull back under certain conditions because it's just too dangerous.
Yes.
Do you find that situation, Zachary, ever? Sometimes if you push them a little bit too hard, they'll come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Well, I've never found that.
Okay.
Personally, I think that they regard people like myself as harmless eccentrics, because we put out these emails, and say do this or do that, but they think, oh yeah, well he's just some idiot living in the bush in Elsford, But if I had let's say a degree in law, and I was pushing hard in a particular court case that I might win, which might set a precedent, that's when they would come down. That's when they would come down, I reckon. That's my opinion anyway. Also, I believe that people on the spiritual path get a certain protection from the divine forces. And I could tell you an interesting story. Well, I shouldn't actually mention it because, right. I won't mention that. But basically speaking, if you push for change in the right way, you're protected. But if you're a very high-profile figure that's going to reveal some secret information which is going to embarrass the hell out of them, that's when you might be in danger. And they don't regard me as that type of person. Simple.
Yeah, I think most people figure I'm pretty eccentric and nothing to be concerned about. Well, let's keep it that way because I think it gives us a little bit of protection.
Yeah, well, it does. It does.
Yeah.
But if you're what's his name? If you're a Harold Holt who wants to close down
Yes.
What's that secret base in the middle of Australia?
Pine Gap.
Yeah, we know the one. Pine Gap.
Yeah, Pine Gap. Well, look what happened to him. Oh, he had an accident. He drowned in the surf outside his in Victoria. That's when it can get dangerous. You see.
Yeah. Do you want to hear?
They got Holt. They definitely got Holt. I reckon anyway. They bumped him off, knocked him off.
They got Whitlam. He was going to down Pine Gap.
And yeah, they bumped off Whitlam through the dismissal in '75. And there are perhaps other example as well. Look what happened to Kennedy, JFK, you know, in 63, I think it was. 63? Anyway, in the early 60s. I mean, if you're too dangerous to the establishment, yes, you can be a risk. But and incidentally, not many people know this, but President Trump there have been assassination attempts against President Trump's life. In November of last year, 2019, he was actually poisoned. They tried to kill him,
Right.
but he survived. He has a taster, just like the old kings and queens of England do, or maybe they still do, who knows. And the taster got sick. Trump got slightly ill, but he didn't die.
Right.
So they are after, you know, they can be pretty nasty when they want to eliminate people that they perceive as a real threat to their little power base. They can be very nasty. Sad to say.
Very high turnover in his staff. I wonder how many have died from the poisoning.
Well,
You sacked him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So if you're in a position of power, high-profile position of power, influence, and you try to make serious changes, they can come after you. And that's why most politicians, eventually, of whatever party they are, end up towing the line.
Yeah.
I mean, here in Australia, you got Jackie Lambie, you know, who's challenging the establishment, but they regard her sort of as a fringe candidate, and she doesn't really have that much of a base or support, so they let her do her thing.
Yeah.
But if it was Scott Morrison pushing for real change, it would be a different matter, let me tell you.
And it's happening in Russia at the moment anyway.
What's happening?
They poison the
Opposition.
That's right.
position.
You mean Alexei Navalny?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
the one who is in Germany there.
Do you know who actually poisoned him, though?
No,
It wasn't Vladimir Putin, by the way.
I have no
It was
idea.
not Putin.
But I
It
know.
was not Putin or any secret agent like the KGB. It was not Putin.
I know
Navalny got poisoned by his own people
already.
in order to cast the blame on Putin, to make Putin look like a devil,
Already.
with horns popping out of his head.
Yeah, no,
The reason they poisoned Navalny was because the election, I think the presidential election was last year, and so Putin's got another 5 years, and so they can't, you know, Navalny can't really do anything now. He can maybe, you know, go here, go there, you know, get some people at a demo, but he can't really change the power structure. So his own people poisoned him in order to cast aspersion on Putin and say, oh, Putin did it. He's a monster. He's an evil man, whatever.
Okay, I don't know. I don't get involved, but I know that politicians are getting killed quite openly nowadays, and doctors and all sorts of people who are trying to bring a change or whatever. I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
It's dangerous to speak up.
We live in a dangerous world, and it's real. Definitely.
I'd like to just say something about Uluru. Just through Sahaj Yoga, I learnt that if you look at Uluru from above, it looks like a baby elephant lying on its side. And I sort of learnt that it's actually Ganesh. And if you look at it, I mean, it does look like an elephant, you know. It sort of has got elephant features, and yeah. So I just thought you'd be interested. So that's another dimension.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
If it's Ganesh, it could be a second ray as well. Meaning
Yeah.
the solar plexus is merging with the heart center. It's second.
The heart.
It's the heart.
And in terms of the sacred centres in the centre of Australia, we have Kakajuka, which holds the energy of will and power, Uluru, which holds the energy of love and wisdom, and Watata, otherwise known as King's Canyon, which is the community gathering place the place of the people, of the active intelligence. And the three of those sacred sites form a triangle around Uluru. So it's sort of a place of healing, a place, a region of protection, and a region of gathering. And in some of the prophecies from our teacher, there are teachings to do with the significance of the centre of Australia in a few hundred years' time. Yeah, it will be a developing place of spiritual potency. So it's wonderful that people all over the world and all over Australia will focus upon it. And when we link our heart to the heart of Uluru, it connects us in to this sort of loving presence of the earth that we were talking about earlier.
It's lovely.
So that's a prediction for a few hundred years in future, did you say?
Yes, there's nothing specific about it. It's something that I remember a mention being made of the fact that it will be a place of great gathering for the children. The thing to do is to go to to go to maitreyatheosophy.org, and you'll find a lot of teachings on the children of the heart. And I don't know if there's anything about Uluru there, but from my memory, it will be a place in a few hundred years' time where the children of the Aquarian age will gather after some of the biggest earth changes. So it's a place of hope, and it's a place connected to the future. And of course, it's the central point of the dreaming for the Aboriginal people. And if we could only learn from their teachings, to do with the sacredness of the dream time and the rainbow serpent. There's such a tiny amount that I know, but I'm very interested in it.
Yeah.
Something that I'm going to try and get organised pretty soon is one of the therapists that we had. He was here for 9 years. He's a past life regression hypnotherapist, and he's still in the local area. His name's Nino, and he was trained by the foremost past life regression hypnotherapists in the world, Michael Newton and I've forgotten the other name, and so he was attracting people from all over the country to have sessions, and the sessions were extremely deep. 4 hours was a typical session where someone's taken extremely deep into their psyche, and he could recognize when it was an old soul. There's young souls and there's old souls and everything in between. And when he gets the old souls, he goes to the trouble of asking what's going on. And I've had a couple of conversations with him only recently, and he'd be willing to come on to one of these forums, one of these sessions, to talk about all the updated stuff he's getting. And it's pretty fascinating because he's getting it from a different point of view. He's getting it direct from the highly evolved souls that he recognises during very deep regression. That would be interesting, and I'll be contacting him soon to see whether he can come on. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
that's lovely.
Yes.
Yeah, well, one of the areas that we bridge here, obviously the metaphysics. I mean, that's been the focus tonight, and I think Zachary's in the same mode. We also have highlighted a lot of the social stuff that goes on in our societies, and when we see tyranny, we try and do something about it, and political incorrectness and all that sort of stuff. So we bridge both ends of the scale, and it's not as if I'm I've got a choice about it. I know through synchronicity, I have to do that. That's part of what this center is all about. And you know, on Friday, Zachary is going to be presenting stuff all to do with the emergency measures and the powers and I loved Zachary's analysis of that. And so that's why I've invited him to present again on Friday. And it might be a totally different audience. I don't know.
Probably will be. Probably will be.
Yeah, I'm attracted to both ends of the scale. I even say to my yoga students, because what I find is there's two types of people that get attracted to what we do here. There's yoga students that are coming to get fit, you know, using exercise, and there's other people that don't bother about the exercise. They just like all the spiritual stuff. And I say to both of them, you're unbalanced. You got to do both. You know, you know, I'm not pushing it on anyone, but I'm just saying we are a three-part being: body, mind, spirit, and to be entirely human, we have to look after all aspects of that. You can't just go flipping out into the psychic realms and say, oh, my guides will look after me. You have to participate.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Well, that said, I'm running 3 yoga classes a week on Zoom if anybody's interested.
Right.
Check out the website. Yeah. Anyway.
I was actually, oh well, I mean it's a bit, I might be a bit late, but I with that question of past lives and where we were talking about how we're supposed to live forever. In that book, The Conversations of God, he says that yeah, you when you do die, you don't actually die, you keep going. And when psychic people, you know, meet people, they say, oh, I've got your father there, and he's you know, he looks like this, and you know, and say, oh yes, that's your father, that's my father, or whatever. And you sort of think, well, okay, he says that you don't die, but that soul entity does reincarnate. I mean, even though God says you're actually supposed to live forever, but that soul entity does reincarnate as another human being in a different body, in a different country, yeah, whatever. So how does that work?
How does that work? Have you got a few weeks there? It's not that complicated, really. This is not our natural home. The material realm is just a place we go for adventure, right? And if you start looking at it in that way, it makes the journey a little bit easier, right? Don't think of it as a punishment, because then it will be. It's an adventure of a lifetime, you could call it. But when you die from this realm, it's like you go back home. You actually get, it's like being born again, right? When you go out and back into the spirit realm, which is your natural home. When you're born on this realm, you go through the amnesia, and so you forget who you are, and it's like you're dying almost from the spirit realm, because in the spirit realm you're bliss, you know everything, or you got access to everything, and you've got all your soul family around you. You're all connected to the divine and all that. And so the question might be, well, why would you bother coming here, right, in this very limited realm? there's different ways to look at it. When you look at the Course in Miracles and Disappearance of the Universe, it kind of puts it up as a mistake. It says you shouldn't really be here or something like that. And I have some problems with that.
You know, someone will say, oh, look, you've had 672 lives. Well, this is what God said to the author.
Yes, that's right.
And so he's had 672 lives. So that means that in each one, you know, he was maybe a priest or maybe a queen or maybe a, you know.
You're here to have, like I said, you're here to have an adventure and you want to explore it all. And that's why you're born into all the different levels of society in all realms, just about every country. You know, some people who are super. It can be done in very small numbers of lives, but that's supposed to be very rare. Or it can even, it can even be done in one life, I've heard. And
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I've come across the idea that that's almost impossible. But you're here to explore it all. You know, you want to experience every emotion. You want to experience every socio-economic situation. And so that's what you do. You choose to do that. And it's part of a game of evolution. You know, you can advance as fast as you like or as slow as you like. You know, if you want to evolve quickly, then you end up having difficult lives. You know, and that's by choice. Let's say higher choice, right? If you want to evolve slowly, you're allowed to do that as well. And so you might have quite a lot of laid-back lives, or you can have a combination of the two, right? And of course, it's not the same personality that comes through each time. It's a conglomeration of personalities, and the mixture will be different for each incarnation. It depends on what the higher self or the soul element wants to experience in that particular incarnation. That's the quick answer.
Yeah.
Can I add, George, that I agree with a lot of what you said, but there's a very important factor, which you didn't mention in my opinion anyway, and that is karma. Karma from past lives, or in the astrological perspective of things, the planet Saturn. Saturn in every horoscope represents past karma, which you have to work out in this lifetime. And let's be honest, in our long, long journey, we've met some people we've done the dirty on, done the nasty to. You know, for whatever reason, that happened. And if it's really severe, you're going to meet those persons in this incarnation, and they're not going to be very well disposed toward you. And that's happened to me, and I'm sure you have your own stories. Everyone will have their own story. Yeah. So you've got to come back to to wipe the slate clean in a karmic sense, and also to evolve as a master soul. We're headed toward what the Theosophists call the fifth initiation, or the Arhat initiation. In Buddhism, the Arhat is the perfected being. The Arhat initiation in Theosophy is number 5. And when you get on the physical, that means you've made the grade mate, but it's not easy, and it requires a lot of work. So I just like to add that sort of footnote to what you said, with most of which I agree.
Yeah, and going beyond that, you can actually transcend your karma, but you need to, if there's a lesson behind it, then you need to, what's a good word? Comprehend the lesson before it happens, and then you don't have to go through the suffering. You know, you just move up to the next level without having to go through the difficult times. Yeah.
It all depends where Saturn is placed in your horoscope, my friend.
Huh?
It all depends where Saturn is placed in your horoscope.
So does that make you an astrologer as well?
I am an astrologer, yes I am.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
John and I are both astrologers.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say about it is that if I am tuning into a person's past lives from their natal chart as an esoteric astrologer, then I can get a broad feeling about what some of the lifetimes may have been, but I won't get anything very specific. But if I'm working with the client as a healer and helping them to open the door to their past lives, well, that's only possible for people, in my experience anyway, if the person has got some spiritual practice or spiritual experience, basically to be able to work with themselves on a deeper and inner level. And so you have the person on a physical personality level who might be lying on the couch having their healing, but their soul is operating on the inner, passing messages through via the spiritual guides. And so when you asked the question before, you know, when someone says they're talking to a psychic and they're saying, here's your dad next to you, well, that's the soul of the father. Meanwhile, the personality has gone on to do other things. But I would think of the soul as a bit like a repository of wisdom, a bit like the library, the digital copy of the library. And the information can be coming from that permanent source on the inner. So if you're trying to have a past life session, you're going to tune into your own permanent source with the support of the healer and with the support of the spiritual guides. Whereas if you're going to look at the esoteric astrology chart, we could broadly say, well, it might have been this or it has this kind of feeling, but you won't get any details. And for some people, it's the current life that's most important, and it would actually be confusing to go into the past lives. But other people, it's exactly what the doctor orders. And this is really what Zachary was saying. It all comes back down to Saturn and to, as what George was saying earlier, whether it's a younger soul, a moderately old soul, or an older soul. You know, so the younger souls have no need, I don't think, to go back and explore their past lives. But the further along we've gone, the more stuff-ups we've made, and therefore the more important it is to go back to heal the things we haven't learnt and to bring forward the gifts of what we had. So it's a complicated subject, really.
It is.
Yeah. I wonder if we should sum up or wrap it up. We've been going for quite a while, and I did mention Zachary was going to give us a review of what he's going to present on Friday. And do you think that's appropriate, or is a meditation?
Well, I'll just say for people who are concerned about what our wonderful Premier of the state of Victoria is doing, wonderful in parenthesis, have a tune in on Friday at 7:30, and we'll talk about what we can do to stop his latest power grab. But what I'd like to do now, George, or very soon, is present the final meditation, the meditation on Archangel Michael, because we're very close to, well, we're only 2 hours away from midnight now, and that's the beginning of Michael's Day.
Yeah.
It's a very, very powerful time on the spiritual calendar. So I was planning to do a final meditation, visualization, attunement to Michael, and then I'm going to have to sign off because I'd like to end around 10 o'clock, and I think it's about 5 to 10 now. So that's what I suggest. If anyone wants to make a final statement or comment, let them do so now, and then we'll go into the meditation on Michael.
Sounds good, mate.
Good.
Yeah. No music if you can.
No music?
It was I found it too distracting.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll play a song that embodies the energy of Michael without any words or whatever, and then we can do the final attunement without music. But I really want to play the song because it really embodies, spiritual music is quite fascinating, quite wonderful, because it embodies what might require half an hour, or even longer of words and explanations into a very small time period. It can be done in minutes. And this song...
I'll just mention Chris is also what would you call yourself, Chris? A mind therapist? And I know Michelle's got some talents as well in this area. And Tara. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, a very talented group, no less.
Yeah.
But this song I'm about to play, I think it's only 3 or 4 minutes. It embodies the energy of Archangel Michael. It was a song composed by a Danish musician called Lars Lindhardt, who has visited Australia a number of times, and he's part of our spiritual group based here in Galesford. And so I'll go ahead, unless anyone wants to make a final comment before I play the music, I'm ready to go with this, and then we'll do a short contemplation on Michael, and then that'll be it for me. Anyway.
Can I just mention, I was wondering what's happening with Julian Assange and like on a spiritual metaphysical type of view, because, you know, he's in a lot of distress, and does anybody have any idea?
Well, you'd have to tune into his soul, but I think one thing you and I can do for Julian Assange is send him prayers of protection and ask for divine intercession in his struggle with the forces of darkness, because he is really engaged on the front line with the dark forces.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
we can send him love and light and help him in that way, but it's impossible to predict how this thing is going to, hi there. It's impossible to predict how this thing is going to play out. It's dragged on for far too long, probably. No one really knows what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other final comments from anyone?
Yeah, just on the WikiLeaks, there's an interview that Zinu Brzezinski did, I think it's 10 or 15 years ago when WikiLeaks started. And he said that it was a psyop, that it actually wasn't a genuine, it was a counter-intelligence operation.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
I'm just saying that that's what he said in an interview, and he's anyway. Yep, there you go.
I think you can tell that Assange is a genuine threat to the establishment. If he wasn't, then he wouldn't have had to sequester the Ecuadorian embassy for all those years, and he wouldn't be in the situation that he is now. They regard him as a genuine threat.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure about that.
I wanted to make a quick comment. Can you hear me, everyone? It's Mandy here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe that in reference to what you said, Zachary, about we don't know where things are going, I think that it's speaking from the Bible. It's people have turned away from God to a large extent, and I think that if people don't turn back to God properly, we are going into captivity. From my recent huge plunge into the good book, it looks like the same old story playing out. We're going into captivity. We've followed other gods. The UN is run by fallen angels. That's other gods. And I truly think that Australia needs to get to grips with its pride in being a secular nation, or becoming a secular nation, and I think that that'll be the chastisement. It's just basically captivity.
Well, that's a very that's an extremely vast metaphysical concept. The meditation I'm doing actually can help us get back to God, because we're invoking the energy of Archangel Michael, the destroyer of evil, the vanquisher of evil. So I'm sure you've heard of Michael in the Christian tradition, and in the esoteric tradition, he's a mighty force as well. So if you want some real divine help and some real oomph, you know where to call.
Yeah.
So we're ready for this. We're ready for this now. I'll go ahead and play the song. I won't comment. It contains the energy of Michael by the Danish composer Lars Lindhardt. I don't know how it will sound on Zoom, but here goes.
Fire of Michael, fire of Michael, touch the earth. Fire of Michael, fire of Michael, fire of Michael, touch the earth. Protection, protection. Lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, touch the earth. lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, touch the earth. Victory, victory. Fire of Michael, fire of Michael, fire of Michael, touch the earth. Fire of Michael, fire of Michael, fire of Michael, touch the earth. Protection, protection. Lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, touch the earth. Lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, lightning of Michael, touch the earth. Victory, victory. And now we'll go into a visualization to invoke the energy of this great, wonderful being, Archangel Michael, vanquisher of evil, destroyer of darkness, protector of the Lord Christ. Friends, if you could imagine yourself going into the inner planes of existence, the subtle realms, where you can contact these wonderful, divine, spiritual energies. And we visualize Michael on the inner planes is a tremendous, gigantic force, 300, maybe 400 meters high, with a sword in his right hand and holding a pair of scales in his left. He is dressed in garments of blue, deep spiritual blue, and his aura contains flashes of violet and other subsidiary colors. And we gaze upon the visage of Michael, Archangel Michael on the inner, this great, wonderful being. And we ask his protection and his guidance and his divine energy for ourselves, our friends, our family, our community. We pray that the leaders of this nation, Australia, at the federal level in Canberra, all politicians from all parties, as well as at the state levels, we ask that Michael be able to inspire from the inner planes the decisions, the outlook, the activities
of the leaders of this nation, Australia, as well as the leaders at the state level, and even down to the level of local government, local councils. Dear Archangel Michael, we pray that you inspire these leaders to work for the good, the benefit of all persons in this nation, Australia, and for the good of the world at large. May these leaders be able to overcome their own personal deficiencies, their weaknesses, their short-sightedness, errors of personal judgment, which may have an impact upon the lives of many thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people in this nation, Australia. Please inspire our leaders at the national level, the state level, and even the local level to aspire to the very highest within themselves and to put aside their selfish ambition for power and learn to work selflessly for the good of the millions of Australians, both white Australians, Indigenous Australians, immigrants to this country, and also for the good of the kingdoms that exist below the human. The animal kingdom, the plant, vegetable kingdom, and the mineral kingdom. In your holy name, Archangel Michael, and honoring your powerful, divine, first-ray energy, the will of God in action, I make this prayer on behalf of myself and all our friends gathered here in this Zoom meeting. And now, friends, I think that this meditation has now come to an end. Thank you very much for participating in this very splendid event. Thank you, George, especially for hosting it via Magpie House. And hopefully we can meet again, talk about these matters and others, because for me it's been a fascinating discussion, and I hope you all feel the same.
Wonderful.
Yep. Thank you, Zachary.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you for all being here, and
Thank you, George.
Yes.
look forward to more Mondays and Fridays. Who knows?
Yes.
George.
Thank you.
George.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, Chandra.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Wow.
Stop hiding.